This is Professor Puente with Christina, one of your students. How you doing, Christina?
Doing good, thank you.
Thank you for being with us in this lecture. And this will count as your project grade. If some of you have not contacted me about your project grade, this would be a great opportunity to do so this week. And I hope you did well on your midterms. If you have any questions about your midterms, just contact me and we'll talk about it, okay? So today we start with Objective 25, Understanding Group Dynamics, okay? And as you know, your book has a chapter introduction. Read through it real quick. First of all, here on the chapter introduction, a group is made up of two or more people. How well have you done with groups, Christina?
Actually, really well. The company that I work for, we have teams like 4 or 5 people at each community, and so having to work together in a group is part of my everyday focus at work.
Got it. What do
So,
you call your groups over there? Do you call them teams, cliques, squads? What do you guys call them?
uh, team, we call each other
Teams.
a team, and the reason being is obviously that old saying, "There's no I in the team," and so we all have to work together to keep the community running and functioning properly, and continue making revenue for our community. So
Very nice.
definitely a team.
You're definitely right. In the business world, team is a very hot thing right now. It used to be called committees. It used to be even squads, which is military. But you're right. Team is the new word, especially because it eliminates the I, right? Um,
Mhm.
Now, talking about the details of those groups, organizations, how's that? What do you think about diversity of culture and age in group? Do you think that's
I think
important?
it's really important. Oh, yes, I do. I think it's very important to have diversity in your group. If everyone's the same, you're going to produce the same ideas. And so, whenever you have a different diversity with age,
Hmm.
work experience, things of that nature, it really helps, get a broader view of ideas, I guess you could say.
So I want to tell you, actually, in the 70s and the 60s, what I know is that in business, it was discouraged to have diversity in the group. Did you know that? It was seen
Yes.
as you wouldn't work together, and it's so funny. Now we're pushing that diversity because it brings a holistic group, right? How about the experience
Mhm.
base? What do you think about that?
About experience?
Yeah, is it? It says here each member of the group brings unique experiences with them. Do you believe that sometimes is true in your group?
Oh, absolutely. We have some people that have been working in their specific industry for over 30 years. And then there's some people like myself who have only been in it for about a year and a half. And so, with that, you have people that have been there for a while, they have experience with different scenarios. And then for people like me, I have more updated experience for things that I guess happened recently, and I don't have to, I don't know, it doesn't get as confusing. When you have a lot of experience, you may
Mhm.
mix things up and use each example as one instead of on its own.
I
That makes
understand.
sense.
If you want to know something, a lot of people give the word experience a thought of time. Okay, you know how you hear like, "Hey, how much experience do you have?" The first answer they give you is 8 years or 20 years or 2 years, right? No one ever gives you experience as the verb as like I'm sorry, the noun of what have you done. Do you see what I mean? I have done
Mhm.
this, I've done that. Business world is going towards more that than age, than time. Do you see what I mean? So more like experience, as in, have you been to a roller
Yeah.
coaster? Kind of like that. Do you see what I mean? Have you bungee jumped? The
Yeah.
experience, right? It's funny. I have to tear that word apart so people can understand it. But you're right. Let's see, your experience is how you're experiencing your company, especially as a millennial, because the older folks may not be as updated, like you used that word, and it's true. So it has little to do with time nowadays and more to do with what you know and what you've done, right?
Mhm.
So, and if we go to the next one, organizations, enhancement organizational memory. Organizations have a unique history and culture that group must function in. People who have worked for a company for some time develop organizational memory. To give you a concept here, there is a saying that says when a ship leaves, let's say, a port, and that ship has changed every one of its planks and every one of its parts. when it gets to the port, is it that same ship?
No,
You don't think
I
so?
wouldn't think so. No.
So people will tell you, yeah, it's the spirit of it. But you're right. It could be yes or no. But that has to do with organizational memory. Okay? Can the members of that team change and have the same structure? You don't think
I
so?
think so. I think, well, if you put it like that, yes. I think if members of a team change, then
Mm-hmm.
you can still have the team function. But it all just depends on communication and making sure that your team is working together in
Exactly.
order for it to function.
Okay, yeah, I do definitely agree with that. It's so funny because your book talks about personalities and and how it works within that, and it's so true. The personality to even every class changes, even per semester for me. So, but that's a good talk there. Organizational memory. Can a unit have its own being, right? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Error detection. When you bring people together to work on a common task and you introduce multiple levels of error checking, this is like balance, right? How does
Yeah.
your company deal with that, Christina?
Well, as a matter of fact, I have a really good example for this situation. We recently just decided to go green at our community, which is paperless. And
Perfect.
so we were thinking of different ways that we could get that process done fast or quickly in a more efficient way. And individually, we were all thinking, okay, I can do it this way, another person's going to do it this way. But then when we brought all of our ideas together, we realized like, some of those ways are not going to really work. And then leave time for us to actually get our real jobs done.
Yeah.
And so as a team, we were able to, knock out different errors that we could see coming up from certain ideas. And then finally came up with doing a group effort, which we got it done in a month. And that's
Wow.
amazing.
Wow, congratulations. So definitely balance, right? Checking into balance of this. Let me see. The other one is going to be more creative solutions. Each individual in the group will approach a problem differently than everyone else. What do you believe about that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, not everyone's going to be the same when it
Okay.
comes to approaching different ideas. And so, or different problems, excuse me. And so I think it's very true. And not every idea that you have or a way that you're going to approach something is going to be correct. So working together, you're able to kind of mesh with each other and figure out whose idea is going to work best for that,
How about
issue.
with that said, and the next one is about acceptance of decisions. Do you sometimes see people disagreeing between each other, and just real quick, how do you think you can get through that?
I think that it's very normal to disagree with somebody, but once again, if you communicate with them and really weigh out what's going to work best for the solution and help find the easiest but most effective way of doing it, I think those disagreements turn into really quickly agreeing with
Perfect.
the person because you realize maybe I'm not right always, and my idea is probably not best for this situation, but it can work somewhere else.
Perfect. So then look through these charts, class, and it gives you even a little bit of idea of organizational memory. Again, that's one of those concepts that's actually very not contra. I don't want to say controversial. It's just that people may or may not agree with, opinion driven. Okay, so objective 26, evolving from a group to a team. It's so funny you use that word team and you appreciated it. Again, this is more millennial thinking team, the word team. It was seen, again, in the past, group was one of the things, and I guess it's because now collaborating with such easiness way of doing it online, even in this situation with Skype, it makes it a
Mhm.
little easier, right? To call each other the
Yes.
team. So essential elements, and we go here, expect socializing. What do you think about that?
Oh, absolutely. I recently just joined a softball team, and so the first day wasn't even practice. It was just getting to know your team members and really figuring out where everyone fits on the team. And I think it's very important to socialize with people, especially if you've never met them before, and definitely in a work experience, because you may know someone outside of work, but their work ethics are completely different from what they are,
And so to let you know, uh,
as just a friend or what.
business, it's a concept that kind of was just created around the Madman era. You know, Madman the show.
Mhm.
That's when business started to become, I want to say, a factor. It was more than just making money. I'll tell you, there are groups that don't really even look. you could see historically that socializing or becoming a team wasn't a thing. In fact, are you Catholic?
Yes,
And I'm Catholic. When you go to mass, do you get to know each other before you start mass?
absolutely. Everyone,
Really? Because in my mass,
yes,
you don't.
really,
No,
we
in
get to
mass,
we
nobody knows each other.
really. Well, I've been going to the same church forever,
Okay,
so
but let's say if you go to
there's
a
definitely a difference.
yeah, that's the difference, true. But if you went to a mass that you did not know people, do these people introduce yourself before mass?
No.
Because to the Catholic Church, since it's such a traditional factor, a team or socializing, it's not a thing. In fact, it's seen more on the later churches. Now socializing has become such a factor, like an important thing. In fact, classes nowadays is introduce yourself. You know, before
Yeah.
it was like, why do you have to? I mean, just get to know knowledge. So that is a new concept. I want to say in the 40 years, 30 years ago, that socializing is important for even the organization to move on. And encourage organizing and forming. During the second phase, the group develops a shared understanding of its mission and purpose. People also begin to assume group roles. Is this true? Do you believe people actually get their own role of part of the team themselves?
Yeah, I think especially the more outspoken and I guess the leader in you will come out whenever you're part of a team. And so you'll notice, if, especially if you're standing in the background, like, okay, this person all of a sudden just starts taking in charge of a scenario, or then there's the people that kind of fall back and are a little bit more shy, and then they take a different role, maybe something that doesn't have as much leadership requirements. And so I
Ah.
see it happen a lot, especially whenever I go help at different communities and
Mm-hmm.
we do training. And it's funny to see how people take control whenever they're put in a team or
Huh.
group.
It's great. Thank you, thank you. And then it says number three, facilitate information sharing and processing. Work out their pecking order, believe it or not, as shown comfortable sharing information with each other. Do you see sometimes group members not share or group or anything whatsoever, not share information with each other?
Um, Sometimes I do. I think if it's a group made up of people that are all willing to contribute and that are wanting to make the team be effective, then you don't see it as often. But you will certainly see different people that are a little more withheld and they don't want to provide information until they finally break through and they realize, like, okay, I can, I feel a little more comfortable, and so then they'll start sharing their information. But
Okay,
I've seen it a few times.
and I'll tell you this, people expect classes to work together and push. This is the business, again, the business mentality. Even if you were to want to go to graduate school and get an MBA, you'll learn to work with each other because business is about that. However, not all fields are like that. For example, law school. In law school, there's a big chance they tell you there's a bell curve and somebody's gonna fail in this class. So you start to see people withhold information. You even
Yeah.
go as far as to see people stealing textbooks the test, just because they don't want to be the ones failing out. Do you see what
Yeah.
I mean? So it just depends on, and this is why in law, the cooperation it's minimal. It's more about competition. So
Yeah.
it's I do want to give you guys the idea that no, collaboration is not pro every group, believe it or not. And then there's this concept of synergy. I love this word, synergy. It's, to put it plainly, is your energy, my energy, our group's energy, and putting it together and making a bigger energy. I like to call it, now 1 plus 1 is 2, but 1 plus 1 is 5. Do you see what I
Yeah.
mean? So what do you believe about this?
Well, with synergy, it's really funny because if you put it in a scenario like working on I don't know, a revenue buildup and
Mm.
trying to figure out what's going to get you the most money for your community. For my example, if I'm working by myself, I can come up with ideas, but as soon as one of my coworkers comes in and helps me, oh my gosh, it's like we blew the wind off this thing. So we're, getting a lot of ideas, some that are a lot more effective than what they would have been if I was by myself.
Perfect, perfect. Thank
So
you.
two
And
minds are always better than one.
yes, yes, definitely. And it's such a subject that you can go on and have its own his own interview about, right? Because
Yeah.
very effective. And so let's go to objective 27, our second and last one. using divergent thinking. Divergent, the word. Have you seen Divergent, the movie?
No, I have not
Well,
actually.
I have, and I can't tell you to watch it or not. I think it's okay. But that word is something here, divergent. Look at that. And what's it mean? What do you think divergent means?
Scattered, just kind of like not well put together, but just kind of
Everywhere,
all over
right?
the place. Yeah.
It's so funny. The book is all about uniting the team, uniting it, right? But when you unite a team, the last thing the team needs to do is become homogeneous into one thought, because that
Mhm.
doesn't help the team. Remember, there are cultures that homogeneous is good. In Japan, for example, being all one, being all from one area, that helps the team mentality to them, right? But
Mhm.
funny thing is now we're going towards a way more, hey, no, let's be everywhere, let's think everywhere, so when we come together we're a whole, not just one thing of something. So that, yes, Divergent, it's funny, the movie kind of directs a little bit about that, how the Divergent has everything and it's just everywhere. That is also a word that some people think, it's good or not, but because it's everywhere again, is opposite of focused. And yeah, and some people don't appreciate it, but some do. So so let's talk through this brainstorming. What's a good strategy to brainstorm that you've seen, a good little plan?
Um, I actually am more of a person that's going to do the mind map. That's definitely how I
Really?
brainstorm. I kind of start with one scenario and then branch out to see how it's going to work. So it's a little less organized, but that's how I work
That's
best.
awesome. Congratulations. You found a way to study and to. This is a new way too, by the way. People take notes, and it's good to take notes. I'm the person that when they go to class, I attempt to pay attention, and me writing something down doesn't help me as much because everybody that says so, writing it down helps me. But I have noticed that yes, my mapping is it's great. I could see it. I'm a very geographical person, so maybe the same thing for you. So how you do those are important. Group mind mapping, which is what you're saying here too. Uh, that of course is the same way to kind of put your ideas and our ideas together. But the one thing that I've seen that works is when everybody puts their information on their own piece of paper, and then they put it to the board, like a major board, and you start
Yeah.
to see these concepts come together. It could be as easy as, where do you want to go to vacation? We have $5,000. What could we do? And everybody splits off for one day, and they come and bring their ideas, and then just put it on the board, and they come up with an amazing concept. Again, the synergy, putting, grabbing from everywhere and bringing it together. So
Yeah.
group mind mapping, and you see here too on figure 4.4 how people do it. Again, this is kind of a board mentality. Have you ever heard of whiteboarding?
No.
Whiteboarding is a business technique that you'll see that is very effective, and it's just really good. Professors usually that write on the board images instead of actual words. And you should go to YouTube and see that. It's awesome. It's the way they do it, and they write it out, and then you're just looking at it. So sometimes it's more than words that helps. Three, free writing. What do you think about free writing?
I I'm just not. That's personally not a way of producing ideas for me. I just that or journaling. I don't like those. I'm more of like a spit them out, keep it going, and then whenever everyone's kind of done with their ideas, going in and editing that. But the free writing is not for me.
Got it. So just kind of writing down information. And I will tell you, they say
It's
that
boring.
it's boring to you, it doesn't grab your attention.
Mm-hmm.
How do you do with art? How do you do with images?
I do better with images than just sitting there and just reading words. I know that sounds kind of weird, but I would rather see like imagery rather than text, pages
So
of text.
some people do that. Some people are good at that. So you know what? I suggest that, because I'll tell you this, journaling, man, it's something that I wish I was better at, but I know it's good. I know it's really good. Like, I'm like you. The time for me to do it is kind of an effort. But I will tell you, from a person that's not sold into writing, sold into typing, sold into it, that it's incredibly good to journal. all you're really doing is grabbing your ideas and what you've learned every day and putting it down on a paper. But that's not the point. That's doesn't help you any. It's when a year later you go back and you look at it and you're like, man, I can't believe I was thinking that, or I can't believe I thought that then. And then you bring that out, and it just brings the good back to you. Because thoughts happen all the time; they just don't stick all the time. And you'd be
Yeah.
surprised what you come up with. So I will tell you, journaling is definitely, it's good if you have the time to do it. At least do it once in the blue moon. But some people already do it even with religion when they go to Bible study. So, and it brings out good in them too. Objective 28, and here we go. This is the last objective. Convergent thinking instead of divergent thinking. What do you think about that? What does it
Convergent
entail?
thinking.
Yes.
Oh, yes. It's a more of an organized aspect of rather than divergent where it's everywhere. Convergent, you kind of slim everything down into main factors and keep it a little more organized and easier for the whole team to grasp.
It's it's very difficult to get a group to think alike. It really is. I mean, do you realize? I mean, I'm a big college football fan, huge, right? Alabama Crimson Tide, right? And I'll tell you, for me, I can see it every year that we start out with a whole new team, and it takes about 5 or 6 games for people that have been knowing each other for a while to converge, to bring the
Mhm.
talent and put it together. And that's in every football team, soccer team, any team, business team. It takes for you to know, to accept the differences between each other. Plus, on top of that, even if I don't like this and that about you, I have to accept it, but then also come up with it. Like, and imagine if we were in a team, you probably wouldn't be the one taking the notes. I will have to take the notes, but then I will have to accept the fact that I'm doing more work for it. However, I'm hoping that you would step up somewhere else. That takes some work. Do you see the difference?
Yeah, I do.
Converging, it's a situation. It really is a something that comes slowly and surely. I was hoping your class converged a little bit last night when we had the study group, and it's so funny because I made it a kind of a little game where,
I
hey,
know.
I'll give you as many questions as I can, and I really meant to say, well, 10 tops, because then I just give you the test,
Yeah,
right?
you trust.
But I will tell you, there are people that would answer for people. Like you and Yolanda would be like, just, you know what? Here's the answer. Let's move on.
I
But you
yeah.
see the situation that it brought. It brought that, toughness, and I did that on purpose because I wanted to show this class like convergence. Everybody separate, learning their own thing. But when it came a game, you try to come together. Try to help each other. So so then we're going to call your ideas. Call your ideas. What do you think about that? The three pile method.
The three ball method,
Where you do the yes, no, maybe
Uh-huh.
is a little bit more, I like it because everyone can bring their ideas to the table and then once everyone's done, sort out the more realistic ideas to the okay, this is probably never going to happen. And that way you can really start slimming down your graph or whatever you're using to keep everything organized and it doesn't look so discombobulated. And I personally enjoyed reading that part because I see myself doing it a lot without even thinking that that's what it is.
Hmm.
And I'm like, okay, yeah, this will never happen. And these, yeah, it could maybe get done. And then you have your absolutely's. So,
The funny thing is, from this three pile method, it's something that I knew a buddy of mine did in actual middle school.
really?
Because when he would send this, you know how people did the little note that says, "Will you go out with me?" to your favorite girl, it would say yes or no. So he decided to put maybe as one of the, and
Oh
according
my
to
gosh.
him, he was doing the three pile method. He just didn't know it. But according to him, if she liked you, she would put maybe, and if she didn't like you, she would put no. They rarely put yes, ever. So the maybe became an option, right? So it's so funny.
Okay.
It's hard to shoot down people, but if you're gonna shoot somebody down, it's gonna be because you don't totally agree with it. Like to put no on something, that means that, you know what, I'm going to put aside my niceness for a little bit and I'm going to say no to that. And then you get to know what people really are against, really, because there's a maybe there, remember? So it's like, okay. So that's the situation. Remember that yes or no maybe that my buddy learned through middle school, right? It became a
Yes.
business term. Identify the pros and cons. Ask the group if there's a fatal flaw. What do you think about that? Fatal flaw.
Well, I think it's important to acknowledge that if there is a fatal flaw, that it may not work. But I feel like the pros and cons thing is something that you do forever. You know, you get a scenario and then you write out what's going to work and what's not, and then kind of decide off that. I mean, if the cons are major, then you need to pass on them and it's not going to work. But it's a good way to eliminates different ideas in a sense of knowing what's going to work and what's not.
I'm gonna tell you, fatal flaws are important to know because there. I do believe the flaws can be worked out. They all of them really can, all of them. But it's not that. This is the one thing people don't know, and I hope your class would understand about business. It's about time. It has nothing to do whether it can happen or not. It's about time, time management. Time is it's the equation of value for us. Time, a lot of it has to do with money. A lot of it in business. So when you see these things that are fatal flaws, a lot of people will not give you credibility because of time. You can get it worked out. It's just not going to be this year. So people are like,
Yeah.
whoa, that's already a no. And this is tough to go from a student mentality into business because in the student mentality, you have time. You have time to work things through. You're supposed to, you know, but time right now in business, it's minimal. So realize what are the fatal flaws because you may not be able to work them on time, right? Uh, how about a decision balance sheet?
Well, depending on what you're trying to work out, anytime that you're getting cost involved, it's always going to sway your decision
Mhm.
in making when you're coming up with different ideas. And so, especially if something is going to take a lot longer and it's going to be less cost effective than another idea, then I think that that's definitely a good thing to point out so that you aren't wasting money and wasting time.
Perfect, perfect. So I'll tell you this. This to me is one of the most important aspects of this class. Remember, you're trying to learn how to make a decision. This class used to be called strategic management, and I am still 100% behind that word over problems and decision making, because or solutions and decision making, because you have to be able to manage strategically, meaning you have to be able to put up some kind of system or anything that will work, right? So give
Mhm.
me a second. And then the very last one, create an impact analysis. What do you think about that one?
Well, it's not the last one, but
Oh, I'm
uh,
sorry.
uh, I was like, no, it's not over. Um, Impact analysis, if you're looking to broaden your view, it's definitely going to help you, um, especially if you're not considering other factors. So
hmm
I don't know. Am, yeah.
So on this one, impact analysis, you have to be able to see what are the consequences of each idea. Okay. Um, each one of you, again, each one of the ideas are good. Sometimes you get people say, well, let's just do this. Yeah, the benefit is great, but the cost of it. See, people think that when you make a decision, it has to do with just the outcome. It has to do with time and the cost that it takes you. So it's almost like parenting in a way. When you parent a kid, you start to think, you know what, I could put this kid in gymnastics. However, it costs a lot. At the same time, I'm risking the fact that they could break a leg or two, but I'm also risking the fact that, hey, it times away from our family. Do you see what it takes? I
Hmm.
really believe that parents can teach business classes and just their kids alone because they are the ones benefiting the cause, they're putting in everything, and you start to learn that. But the situation is this: a lot of people think a decision making is a yes or no thing. It's not. It's an entropy thing. You take away from here to give it to there. That is incredibly important to understand. And this is why you may have to do the just balance analysis. And you're right, it's not the last one. The very last one is reverse brainstorming. What do you think about that one?
I found it very interesting when I was reading reverse brainstorming because instead of, creating ideas that could help the situation, you're coming up with ways that it could hurt or ways that it could go wrong. And so
Negative.
I've never ever done something that way. So it was kind of different to hear that people actually, when you're trying to solve a problem, think of ways that it's not going to work or ways that things can go wrong.
You know,
And
people
it's
tend to
interesting.
say that thinking positively is rare, and it's not true. Thinking positively is more common than thinking negatively. And negative people are actually more rare than you people think they are. They will be great at this, but they should not do this. They should not do the brainstorming. It's the positive people that need to do the reverse brainstorming. It really is. There is a bad side of being too positive. I'll tell you that. So when you do these, it gives you perspective. Hey, I have to see that side. Okay? But don't think it's actually more common to see positive people, especially in this country, trust me. In this culture that we're at, it's easy to be happy about life because you get to do something on the weekend, etc. So you have to, I mean, you have that mentality already of positivity, of optimism, and this is what made this country great. However, we have to put down and this is what one of the things that I'll tell you that I read somewhere, that usually positive people are late. They're usually
Relate.
they're late because they're always thinking, hey, don't worry, something will happen that will make me get there faster, and the traffic won't be there, and then they get there late. Do you see?
That's true.
There's a bad side of being positive. So, and that is all. Thank you so much. You've done so well, Christina. I'll tell you, I could see your experience on these situations. I guess you deal well with groups. And the only thing I need you to do is after this, sometime, hopefully in 2 weeks or this week, put like a page together on what you've learned and what you like about it and what you didn't like about it, and that's it. What do you think about these group projects?
I like doing group projects. I work better in groups than I work well on my own, but when it comes to really grasping at ideas, I like knowing what other people are thinking and being able to use those ideas as my own as well. So
Perfect, perfect.
I love group projects.
Oh, I'm sorry. And the thing about this is what I mean. It's not the group projects. These projects. These projects are
Oh,
yeah. These are group projects, by the way. What I've done is I've taken them individually and put them together to help the class. So
these projects, I am a little shy, and so they're kind of nerve-wracking, but once you kind of get into it, it makes it a little bit easier. So I like them.
do you think it gives you experience?
Really being able to have almost like a one-on-one conversation about what's going on in the book makes it easier to understand
Perfect.
if that
Perfect.
makes
That's all,
sense.
Christina. Thank you so much then, and you have a good week, class. Take care.
Thanks.